Brown says, get that India. Big boy.
Call an ambulance! Maybe call a priest! Oh, what a shot! What a shot! Campbell killer!
Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Tip Sheet podcast. As always, I'm your host, John, also known as Forty20, and joining me shortly will be my good mate Sixties, as always, as well as a now semi-regular on the show, Ron Greep, our American correspondent. And together we're going to have a little bit of a brains trust, a powwow, something of a survival guide for round zero as Ron details to us how he's approaching his trip to Las Vegas and everything that he's excited about in that big doubleheader happening at Allegiant Stadium. Before the fellas do join the show though, as always, a quick shout out to the sponsors of the Tip Sheet, Big Swing Golf, North Mead, and Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan, and Parramatta. The best damn sponsors a Little Rugby League podcast could ever ask for, so much thanks to both of them. And now, let's get into our chat. 60s, round zero is almost upon us. It's just a few sleeps away really now. And TCT, while we're not going to be there in person, we're going to be there in spirit, because one of our favourite liaisons on the show, Ron Greep, is going to be there and seeing the double header between the four teams, Sea Eagles, Roosters, Rabbitohs and Broncos. And yeah, we're really looking forward to talking to Ron in the before and after process of it. And the before starts right now. Ron, welcome to the Tip Sheet, mate. Good to have you back.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm always excited to come talk to you guys. Really excited. So, oh yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, that sort of prompted what I was going to ask, which was your level of excitement about this trip for you down to Las Vegas. Can you remind our listeners, first of all, of where you live in the United States, what sort of trip this is for you, and of course, you know, how much this means for you to be able to get down to Vegas for this game?
So I live in Northwest Indiana, which for reference is about 45 minutes to Chicago. So if I went on vacation somewhere and I ran into somebody, I'd probably just say I'm from Chicago to narrow it down. The trip is about 4 hours and 15 minutes for a plane ride. So not too bad. Watch a couple movies. I'm going to be going there with my fiance, so she's never been there before. And trip wise, not too bad. That should be a good time. Leaving in the afternoon. Getting there in the afternoon. When it comes to the time zones, what is that? I forgot what the time zone is over there. But anyway, they're like two hours behind us. So I'll kind of gain some time on our trip there. So I'm really excited. I've been to Vegas once before with some buddies when I turned 21. And this one's a little bit more strictly business per se. But my fiance's never been there. So we're going to try and do some fun stuff for her, because I don't want to make it all solely on me, because that'd be selfish, of course. And I don't need to get yelled at any more than I already do. So anyway.
And of course, it's the doubleheader on the Australian Sunday, which would be the American Saturday. 1:30 p.m. kickoff for the Sea Eagles and Rabbitohs, followed by the Roosters and Broncos at 3:30 p.m. When exactly do you arrive? I know you just talked about gaining time on the trip over, but how early do you get in as opposed to the actual game itself?
So I'm going to get there around February. I will be there February 29th, which is a Thursday. And I'll roughly land around 3:15. I'll be staying at the Luxor, and I'll probably be staying there until the 3rd. So kind of just have a chill whatever day that Sunday and get out of there in the afternoon.
So let's talk about the lead up to the match, because you've spoken to us about confusion in the United States, especially in the media, between rugby league and rugby union. And to my mind, it still seems to be evident in a lot of the grabs that are done with a little bit of media stuff and that going on at the moment that we get to see here. Do you believe that there's been any level of remedy about this confusion over there, or is it just the same as it was before?
To be completely honest with you, no, I don't think there's any distinction made via American fans that are interested or hearing about it. Like you said, you and me, whenever we message, we go back and forth about it. And I have Reddit and Twitter and different things like that. I'll go on the NRL pages, and when I'm reading the comments, it's all, or even Instagram as well. It's all the different stuff about that Australian people talking about how us Yanks don't know the difference. And you know what? Though I can't even lie because it's true. Because like I'm guilty of it myself. I didn't know if I've already said this like a couple times on the pods I've been on. I apologize, but I didn't know myself that there was two different types of rugby. I was watching one of the games with my buddy, and then out of nowhere he asked me if this is league or union. I'm like, it's rugby. He's like, there's two kinds. And I'm like, what are you talking? Like, I was like, what are you talking about? And he explained it to me. And then I looked up like, you're crazy. And I was like, oh my God. And and I started to look into it and everything. It didn't change me from watching. I was like, oh, okay, this is very interesting. And I kind of learned more about union because I had that rugby 15 video game that I got randomly for like $10 at whatever store I bought. Me and my buddies would play it. And then when I started watching the NRL, I noticed there's like different things about it. I'm like, why are we throwing guys in the air? And like, why are the scrums like, why are we not like fighting? It's just kind of quick. I didn't think about it later until I started like really enjoying it. And then my buddy brought it up. But again, and then I talk about it with some people I know, and they just see rugby, and I say league, and they don't know what I'm talking about. Because like another part of this discussion that I've seen on media or different comment threads is the whole thing about calling it NRL or league,
we
and then like just and I kind of get both sides of that, where it's like one of the comments I saw that made a really good point, or articles I read that was out of Australia, was like, when you're watching UFC, like I'm not going to be like, hey, Craig, do you want to watch Ultimate Fighting Champion at my house and get some pizza? Like, no, I'm not going to say that. We say, hey, you want to watch UFC? I'm going to have the guys over. Or I'm not a big WWE guy, but we're not saying, hey, John, let's go watch some World Wrestling Entertainment, and then we're going to go to, get wings after. We're not saying, we always say WWE, UFC off the top of my head on some of those, like, or NHL, MLB, all those kinds of things. I think if there's a way to advertise it, like Super League in England, they're not calling, they don't say the words rugby league, but you say Super League. Something like that kind of like draw its attention. Like, certain things like that would be a way to do it. But no, I don't think anyone that's paying attention to this event is knowing that there is a difference at a general level. Now, if there's people that are like into rugby union, like their whole thing, they see this event, they might be like, well, that's not union. Like they already know that. But if there's someone that's outside that realm, that's like a Joe Schmo, regular American sports fan, like a lot of my buddies, they probably don't know the difference. Let me see here. So like some of the stuff that I've seen recently was like Rob Gronkowski doing like film stuff, and I think I don't dislike him. Like he's obviously one of the top 3-5 best tight ends ever to play in the NFL. He's a beast, but he's a goofball, and I kind of blame maybe some of the media. Yeah, right. I think some of the people that are in the media via maybe his American people at Fox or the NRL people at Fox that he would be coordinating with, maybe kind of give him some info on it, talk to him about like what it is a little bit, so he can give a general blanket statement about rugby league, or even like address like this ain't union, this and that on his goofy self, or something like this is what they do. It's faster. They're hitting the tackle system. It's like that, whatever it may be, just a little bit better. And I see him talking, and it's like I saw people say that his videos are cringe from the Aussie perspective, and I kind of felt that way just watching. Like, my God, this guy's so dumb. But anyway. I did see the Russell Crowe video, and I thought that was actually pretty badass how he broke it down with the music and like his, like you said in one of the previous pods, how his voice is iconic and just like, Gladiator. I thought it was really good. I thought everything about it was awesome. I thought everything about it was great. Broke it down, simple terms. I like how some of the words he used were in conjunction with NFL, and just like this is a try what we would know as a touchdown in the NFL, but it's not 6 points, it's 4. Stuff like that, how like they don't have downs, they have tackles, but it's 6, and after that, that's why you see him kicking. It's kind of like a punt, like he said it better than I did, but it was great. So there's things that I've seen like that, and then a couple of the other questions here, I think they're all going to kind of tie in here to this my answer. The whole thing is they're not. I'm only seeing these advertisements on NRL. I'm only seeing these advertisements on Fox League. If you want to really promote this and extend the audience, I mean, unlike me, who I followed on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that's me personally going out of my way because I'm already aware of it. If somebody is unaware of it, I would imagine you'd want to, I don't know how money works in advertising and all that stuff. That's a whole nother universe. But let's just say that stuff doesn't matter. I would want those things on ESPN. I'm not sure if maybe John would be more aware of Pat McAfee. I love Pat McAfee.
the Pat Mac show.
Dude's awesome. I remember watching him play and all this stuff, and where he grew to where he is now.
It seems
Everyone
like
watches that show.
Be a great segment for his show too, as a promotional thing. So.
Oh yeah, and he does stuff for the Australian Football League. Because of the kicking, I don't know how to play that game. I've never really watched it, but I'm aware of
the connection to the punt scouting. He's also involved. You mentioned the WWE, but he does stuff for them as well. So college college football as well. So
yeah. So him specifically is connected into all this. You nailed it, and specifically and all that stuff. And then I know Fox League is big for the rugby league and NRL in Australia. America has Fox for sports too, all college football, baseball, football especially. So I haven't seen anything on those or those Instagram channels. Oh, a couple. Okay, I take that back a little bit. Fox has done a little bit of advertising for the NRL, the American version, but it's very small, and it's like usually, like I said, it's the Gronk stuff or just a regular commercial. Like NRL Vegas, like it's the post. It's not like okay,
the saturation
like,
rugby,
okay.
There, has it? Like that.
Yeah. So, and it's all online. So like you're limiting your viewing of advertising, if I'm saying that all right. So like they're putting stuff out there, but they're not spreading out like. All right, let's watch this cool video of Russell Crowe explaining it, but let's post it on NRL where typically I would say 99.9% of people that follow that page or like that page, they already know what's going on.
Already invest in the product, exactly, yeah.
Right. They're like, oh, this is cool. Hopefully people watch this. And then like it's nobody that needs to watch it per se. So that's my kind of take on it. So to come back to the original question, apologize for going on and on because I just want to make sure like from my perspective, and I'm kind of connected into all like the different Instagram accounts, Twitter. That's pretty much my whole notification screen on my iPhone whenever I get something. So like, no, I don't think people in the United States know there's a difference unless you're already in it like me or somebody that grew up playing rugby in any fashion. So unfortunately not. So sorry for the long answer there.
That's a good answer as well. And you managed to wrap in a few questions that we're going to ask you into the one thorough answer, which I do like. We always knew Sixties it was going to be an uphill battle in that sort of landmark expedition to create a difference in perception between league and union. It's been I wouldn't say an issue, but it's definitely been a part of the code or the two codes for a long time. Union having the bigger global footprint, obviously. So, how rugby league and the NRL in particular choose to tackle this problem if they're going to invest long term into America, which seems to be the indication, it's going to be fascinating. And to hear you in a negative way, I suppose, validate some of the concerns that we've shown in our advertising approach, Ron, between myself, Clint, and Sixties in the last couple of weeks, that they've got some of the right messaging, but they're approaching it the wrong way. So hopefully they can learn from it and find the right avenues, the right channels, and get the right amount of saturation with their campaigns. Because if there is success this coming weekend, and we obviously hope there is, they need to be aggressive. They need to really try and consolidate on it.
And just
one more thing. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say. Well, how about you go ahead? Because I wanted to just backtrack a little about league and union to you. So if you've got one more thing about the promotion or how inadequate it's been or what have you, I'd say jump in now, Ron.
Well, I guess I kind of covered that, but I was going to kind of say if you were going to mention league and union with America, something I saw in one of those articles going back how Americans think about it was that when any American thinks about rugby, their first thought, and I'm guilty of this because I was like, holy crap, that's true. The first thought that they have is they think of New Zealand. And then the next thing they think of is the All Blacks.
Yes.
And then after that, it's like, no matter what you talk about rugby, New Zealand is like
they've been
the best of the best of the best.
Exactly. They're
and then anyone else isn't maybe not superior, maybe England or something like that because we know they play it over there. But after that, that's all you know. So you hear about rugby, you're like, oh, New Zealand, that's the best. No one can compete with them, blah, 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 blah. And after that, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the extent of any. Like the buddy who brought up the thing to me that I mentioned earlier. He literally has an All Blacks jersey. I think he had a family member travel and he bought one for him. So he knows about. It's very limited knowledge, and it's not so much. I just think there's barely any rugby union information that we see now. When you see rugby, that's what they're talking about whenever it is shown. So there's very little of that. Hence, what I'm saying, that's our first thought. But then you introduce a whole nother variation of this. Now it's just like, wait, there's more than one? I thought is that New Zealand, right? Do they have a team? Like, it's just like, that's what I just want to kind of get into that because that's kind of the first thoughts that most Americans have. And I'm, again, guilty of that.
Well, we did see that there was a grab on the news the other night because they're starting to get quite a lot of coverage during the sports segments on the news programs. And it was a street grab with an American down in Vegas, and they asked him, about going to see the rugby league, and he said, they said, "What do you know about it?" And he said, "Oh, the rugby, the All Blacks, they're the greatest,
Yeah.
they're the greatest," right? And it's like, okay, this is, that confusion is as strong as it's ever been, despite the promotion. But I wanted to ask you this one question, which is, now as an American who had a slight familiarity with rugby union, but now has become a lover of rugby league, if you were to speak to a fellow American about rugby league as a product and why it's a better product than rugby union, what would be your main selling points in convincing them to watch rugby league as a different form of rugby?
I mean, what drew me in for myself was, as you know, I love the NFL, I love football, very American of me, but I love the NFL. And when I started watching rugby league, I noticed the similarities. So if you're trying to attract someone that is a sports buff, if that's our demographic, or someone that likes football to draw it in because of that popularity, there are similarities. There are, like I said, the tackle count. It's not 4 downs; it's 6 tackles, but you can follow it. You know when they're going to kick. The way they score is very similar. I heard someone told me way back in the 1800s, 1900s, when you scored a touchdown in early NFL days, you had to touch the ball down to the ground. That's why it's called touchdown. Now you just cross the line.
Exactly.
You don't have to do. So that's where that came from. So there's things that came from that sport to this sport, but that again, scoring is very similar. You kick it through the goalpost. The point system might be different, but you're tackling, you're hitting. It's physical. You have you don't have 11 guys, but you got 13 guys on the field. 2 halves. The ball is similar. Like, there's things that are like just on the surface level that are very similar, but then you take it a step further, like hitting with no pads. Like, they've drilled that home in all the advertising I've seen. Like, okay, that is awesome, super cool, pretty intense. Like, even Gronk in his stupid videos were like, I would never do that. And then I put myself in his shoes. I'm like, I don't know if I would do that either, other than when you're playing pickup ball with your buddies for Thanksgiving or something. But like, I couldn't imagine going full speed with all that stuff. So that part is very interesting. But just like how hard, like I've told you guys, that's how hard it is to score and some of the crazy things that happen. I don't think, other than watching maybe my favorite team in the playoffs, or maybe then NHL playoffs specifically, or being at a close game in person. But like in a regular season game, when I'm watching the NRL, and it's a tight game, like, you're literally like on your toes or your fingertips, like biting your fingertips the whole time until the clock goes 0 or 80 minutes, whatever direction it's going. Because anything could happen. Because you might be holding the team that's behind well on defense, you might be holding them, but then like you hold a guy down too long when you tackle him, and now it's a penalty. So then he kicks it out of bounds, and then he's past the 50, and they got a new tackle set, and then by the time they have like their 3rd or 4th tackle, they're within the 20, and it's like, okay, there's like 2 minutes left. Like, what if they scored? Oh wait, when you score, you get the ball back. Like, there's different things that are just made. Oh, and when you kick the field goals, or the conversions, I should say, the aspect of like where the ball is kicked from. It's not just like, all right, you're between the hashes, basically, give or take, right in the middle.
Chip shot
No,
attempt,
you got chip shots for the most part. They moved them back, but it doesn't matter.
They
but
did.
But like the fact that like they're on these weird angles at times because you score closer to the sideline, it just makes everything so much harder. Because sometimes like I'm sure when you see a guy kick a field goal in the NFL and he misses one, even if it's like 50, 40 yards, you're like, God darn it, you suck. But like when you see these guys miss conversions and it's weird angles, like you're like, darn it. All right, they get the ball back. Let's go.
It also helps that it's usually the quarterback equivalent that's kicking the conversions too, so you can't be too mad at them. But yeah, it's
right.
It's
It's just an interesting thing, mindset. I don't mean to interrupt you,
And
but
you brought up one of the things that has always fascinated myself in Sixties in our discussion, in that rugby league is one of the few codes where after scoring you get the ball back, and that I don't know if it's a good thing. We've discussed the merits of it before, but it is very interesting as to how it lets the game be not scripted in the sense that it's fixed, but how the narrative of the game can play out. So it encourages these big comebacks when you get that first try and then you get the ball back. But in saying that, we now have the new changes to the short kickoffs. So we're going to be interested to see how that impacts the game. Let's get on to the Vegas experience now. And I'm going to ask you about the actual rugby league side of it, and I'll let Sixties talk to you about the more old school Vegas side of things. But there are NRL events scheduled in the days preceding the actual game day itself on the Saturday for you. Do you have any plans to catch up for those and see what the code's got to offer in that regard?
Yeah. Craig, I hope I answered your question there, but I'm going to answer you, John. I just want to make sure I conclude with that. I would just say lean it towards being an NFL fan and just like show the similarities and then show how the game is so much harder and different and what makes those differences so much cool, awesome, cooler, more difficult. Because I think the level of difficulty, but also how simple it is what drew me in. So that's what I would do. Yes, John, there are these other experiences going on. These different days. Like I said, I will be coming in on the 29th, and I have the schedule pulled up here that the NRL did the itinerary. So let's see. I'm going to be coming in around like 3 o'clock, probably getting out of the airport around 4, getting into the hotel, roughly probably being situated at like 5. It looks like they're having a fan fest on Fremont Street, which some people know as Old Vegas. I believe that's where the strip was way back in the day before it blew up to what it is now, and there's a lot of fun stuff to do there. That starts at 6 p.m. What I believe it is, from what I saw, it's like kind of like an introduction to of the players. I'm sure like they'll have a stage of some sort, I'd imagine, and it would be like, here's the Rabbitohs and your the Sea Eagles, and maybe a guy or two would talk and they'll be on stage. I'm sure it's something to that effect, and maybe there's things to do around the vicinity there that are from the NRL. That one's going to be a maybe if we're going to go, because on the 29th and the 1st, we have dinner plans booked for 2 different restaurants in the evening because of how tight it is over there and scheduling the reservations. So my dinner, I think, is at like 8 p.m., I believe. So that's going to be kind of tough to kind of time it in and then go back. And then we're going to be Ubering around if it's a little bit too far for walking distance, because a lot of stuff is walking distance, but not everything. So I would lean maybe not going to the Fan Fest on that Thursday just because of timing. The 1st, March 1st, Friday, they are having NRL 360 and Matty John's at 6:30. Again, I do have dinner reservations at like 8 or 9. This one seems more likely because on the app that I use to watch the NRL, they also offer a bunch of your guys' sports shows, like I just said, 360, Matty Johns. I don't typically watch the Matty Johns thing. I'm sure it's entertaining. I don't have any negative things to say about it. I know he's super popular.
They're not as good as Ernie Johnson and the TNT crew, but they go okay.
I'm not a big NBA guy, and Chuck, he says some stupid stuff.
Chuck
I'm not a
says
fan
some
of that, dude.
crazy
I like when
stuff.
Shaq just shuts him up. Like whenever I see that clip, I'm like, that's right. And then it always brings up he's never won a championship, and I wasn't alive in the early '90s and whatnot, but I'm sure. Yeah, it's anyway. I know he's popular. I like seeing Gordon Tallis on that, and then I love Gordon Tallis on 360 when all the Kent stuff went on. But I saw that Kent is back. I'd like to see him and Stephen A. Smith have a debate. That'd be really funny. But you have to find somewhere where it's common knowledge, because then they'd just be looking at each other like, just stupid or something. Just I don't know. But I put that on Facebook in the Eagles group that I'm on. I put like a pick stitch of both their faces, like Stephen A. and Paul Kent, and I'm like, I'd like to see this match. And I got like 2 likes. I'm like, all right, I thought I'd get like maybe 100 likes on this. I thought I'd have a bunch of comments. Apparently no one knows who Stephen A. Smith is. All right, that's fine. But I would like to go to NL 360 because that is a show I watch religiously during the season. Drop my kids off, get my coffee ready. And every episode's already recorded. So like I just pop it on and watch. I think it's about an hour and a half long. So I enjoy that. But it does say 360 and Matty Johns. So I hope that 360 is like around the 6:30 start time, so that way I can at least watch some of it and dip out, because I don't need to sit there the whole time. Again, I have my fiance with me, and other than being at the game, all this other stuff, she's going to be like, "What's going on? Who's this guy? What are they doing?" I don't want to talk crap about her, but I also get her mindset in it too. So I want to accommodate her as much as I can.
Of course.
Yeah, but that's why we're going here. I kind of want to see some of the stuff that I've never seen before, and I really like this TV show, so I'd like to see it in person, even if I'm there for a half hour. Just like take a picture. Maybe I can take a selfie with them talking in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly how it's set up. If it's kind of like a walk-up thing that you see sometimes before like sporting events, they'll have like, the pregame show. I don't know if it's going to be something like that, but it does say it's at the Resorts World southeast corner of Complex, Las Vegas Boulevard. I don't know what that means, if it's inside or outside walk up. I know it's free, but I'd like to go to that. So that's something I'm planning on going to hopefully. And then obviously it's game day, March 2nd. There is a pregame fan zone at 3:30 to 6 p.m. Outside the stadium in the parking lot. It's probably stuff around the stadium after that. So the gates open around 4:30. I am an advocate of being early. I've always been that way. I remember going to a White Sox game late, and I remember walking from the parking lot and hearing like the White Sox bat and the announcement or the loudspeaker going off saying who's up to bat. I'm getting so mad. Like, I hate being late. I've always been like that. So plus being an event that I'm traveling to, paid for airfare, hotel, the tickets itself, like this is something I don't want to be late to. So the gates open at 4:30. I'll probably be there at 4, see what it's all about, check out the inside, find our seats, get some food, eat early, because there's no stoppages. Well, there is in rugby league, but there's not like a TV timeout. Only time I'd want to get up is halftime. There's no innings. So I want to eat before, so I'm just locked in. Maybe I'll get a water and just leave, that's how I am. So I want to get there early, check out this fan zone, so there's fun stuff to do around. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm living at here with these events. Probably not a whole lot the 29th. We'll see what happens. I want to go down off 360, and I'll get to the stadium early and check out this fan zone and obviously the game.
So apart from all of that, you're going to do the usual Vegas thing? You're going to the casino or doing any other touristy things?
I'm not a big gambler. I stink, but I still don't know how to play Texas Hold'em. Whenever I play with my buddies, I think I have something, and then I don't, or I win by accident, and then I don't have any of my $20 I put in. I just sit and watch everybody. But yeah, no, like Vegas, you can go into all the casinos. Like I'm staying at the Luxor, so if I wanted to, I can literally walk down the strip, go into Caesar's Palace, MGM, the Harrah's, Paris, New York. Like you would just leisurely walk into all these places and gamble and stuff. Like I said, I'm not a big gambler, so I have one of my other best friends who lives out of state. I'm thinking about going to all the casinos and giving the casino person, I forgot what they call. Anyway, I'd go in there and just give him $1 so I can get a chip and collect all the chips and send it to him. I don't think my fiance gives a hoot about gambling, so we won't be doing that particular scene. But yeah, no, we're gonna walk around the strip. I mentioned that we're going out to eat at some nice restaurants. One that's in Caesar's Palace. There's a big Ferris wheel, if you guys are aware of it, called the High Roller, I believe. And we're Vegas is at, it's in Nevada, but it's like surrounded by desert. It's like you see the mountains in the background, desert, and then the highway, and then Vegas. So like it's a huge Ferris wheel, and you're in like this big, like, what would I call it? Like a clear ball is where you're at, where you can sit down, stand up. You probably fit like 20 people in it, each thing on the Ferris wheel, and you just see the landscape, the scene. Like I'm the nightlife, if you're there at night, how all the lights stick out, how beautiful that part of the country is. And I want to try and do that. I do that with my buddies during the daytime, and we're thinking about maybe doing it at night after dinner so we can get that kind of view of it. And we have a lot of open time slots too, because like she's never been there. I've been there before, but I don't try to accommodate different stuff, but not be too crazy. So there's a lot of things to just do on the fly. Walk the strip, see all the different people dressed up in the goofy costumes. There's, like I keep saying, there's hella restaurants. I want to go to In-N-Out Burger because that's usually a West Coast restaurant that they don't have out by me. So probably have that before I go home, just to get an animal style burger or whatever it's called. And then I'll be like, this is overrated. At least I had it though.
That's how it always goes, isn't it? You mentioned going to a White Sox game. For those that are listening, that's baseball. And given Chicago, I imagine you got Bulls, Bears, and is it the Blackhawks for NHL?
Yep, Blackhawks.
Yeah, so you've been to games across the board there?
Yeah, I've been to I've been to everything. Everything so you just mentioned. Yep.
You've got a pretty good vertical slice there of what it is to go to an American sports event there. So you're going to be a great sounding board for us in terms of what probably the local expectation will be for the NRL in Allegiant Stadium. And I know, at least with the NFL, there's a certain amount of pageantry compared to what the rugby league product has to offer. But what are you hoping to see from the NRL in terms of their match day presentations?
I mean, I don't have like super big expectations, and I'm not going to be super critical on it, to be honest, because it's so new to me that, to be honest, and don't want to be cliche, but I'm just going to be thankful to be there and seeing all this new stuff for the first time. And it's going to make me really happy. But like, yeah, I mean, things that I would kind of want to see, or I'm looking forward to, seeing all different merch that'll probably be outside and inside, all the different things maybe I can't get out here, or just like I mentioned earlier with the fan fest, just seeing stuff outside the stadium, like things to do. Like you want to draw attention to this event, even it's unlikely, but let's say there's people like walking around the strip and they see this big event, like, when they got this going, oh, this is what's going on. Oh, look, we can do this over here. Maybe then you get people spending money outside that aren't going to go. So now you're making more revenue on those types of things. And I could totally see it. Or even draw an interest in, maybe if someone's got spare money or whatever, it's like, yeah, I'll go. I'll sit in the nosebleeds. This should be cool. Stuff like that to draw attention, which wouldn't surprise me. And maybe this is just throwing something out there. Like, since the teams are from Australia, maybe around the concourse or inside the stadium, they have Australian themes of whatever, food or stuff from each team's state or town, and just like stuff to like draw more like interest in like where these teams are from, what do they mean a little bit more. What else I got here? I thought maybe, this might be wild. I think I'd be wrong to expect this, because that's just setting the bar entirely way too high. But like, what if like Russell Crowe comes down from like the stadium, like the top of the stadium or something, and then like after the game or the first half, he just yells, "Are you not entertained?" or something crazy.
That is a good
Just
shout. I like
like
that. Yeah,
get
him on one of the balconies doing the thumbs up, thumbs down.
There you go.
Style too.
Yeah. Oh, there's a giant flame in their stadium. What if he like lights the flame or whatever that the Raiders have? I don't know. That'd be cool. Then like Hugh Jackman comes out with Ryan Reynolds, and like they're all in their full like Deadpool and Wolverine thing to advertise it. I'll take free advertising for something like that. I don't know. Just wacky stuff like that would be funny. Not wacky, but like Russell Crowe coming down. Maybe he does like an intro video. Like I've been to all those sporting events. There's always, I'm sure they do it in the NRL, like a big intro video where all the fans are in, and it's maybe like 10 minutes before the game starts, and it's just a montage. Something like that would be dope.
I am very keen to see what the NRL does here, Ron, because to put it in perspective, if you're talking about a Parramatta home game 60s, outside the stadium, and Bankwest it's a small scale compared to most American venues hosting about 30,000, but it's a tremendous viewing stadium. You're right on the action. But outside they offer, for the young crowd, the families, like there's some face painting and passing challenges and whatnot, and there's some food, stalls and trucks and whatnot. It's nothing outrageous. In terms of our actual game day pageantry, we don't do the anthem before the game unless it's an international or representative game.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so as opposed to the NFL, where you always have the anthem, and I know that also caused some issues going back a few years with Colin Kaepernick and the whole dispute there. But we don't do the anthem. We sometimes have some goofy halftime antics, like some skills challenges for the crowd to win a prize, and that's about it. Most of the pre-game stuff is done for the broadcast, so it'd be interesting to see if they mix it up here and take some, like, if it in the same sort of parallel to you with the superstars there, Crow and Jackman and whatnot. I think there is definitely a chance for not just spectacle, but just legitimately creating a fun environment there. So hopefully they do lean into that.
Well, surely they have to, because we're talking about attracting a new audience, an audience that's used to a certain amount of pageantry. So you can't see them, providing something where the expectation at normal events might be 100 miles an hour, and the match day presentation is like 5 miles an hour in terms of the presentation. In terms of the games themselves, I'm sure it's going to be everything and more from what the people are there to expect, even though it doesn't involve our wheels. But in terms of the pageantry around the day, I think it's going to have to be well above and beyond, say, the standard fare that we might get at a normal round game and be closer to maybe what we expect on a grand final day, for example, where there is some halftime entertainment or
pre-game show as well. Yeah, like
pre-game stuff. Yeah, so hopefully it is. Ron, I just was wondering as well, there's talk that the attendance could be close to 45,000. Who knows, it might go beyond that. The stadium holds, about 65,000. Would you consider if 45,000 roll up that would be a success?
To answer your question, yes, I think it would. And in getting this question, I compiled some research because I thought that was a very interesting question and something that I personally always find interesting, thinking about what people think is a lot when it comes to stadiums. For reference, in the MLB, an average amount of people per stadium is around 30,000 in the MLB, and that's probably the number two. Some people could argue number one sport in America, and the actual average in the MLB is 42.6 thousand, and the biggest stadium holds 52,000. The lowest is 31,000, and my White Sox would be 40,000. So that's kind of a range in MLB. For the NRL in 2022, the highest average fan count was the Broncos with 29.5 thousand. And since we like the Eels, I threw them in there. The Eels are actually number two with 20,000 per game. The lowest was the Sharks at 12,000. And everywhere in between was kind of like a 15, 16, 17,000 in between there. In 2023, the average crowd was, for NRL, was 18.4 thousand, which is a new record. And I think the previous one was in 2005 or 2006. I should have wrote it down, but this is more relevant now, obviously, which is up 22.6%. Suncorp averaged per NRL game, which was 21 games. The average amount of fans was 38,000. At Acorp, am I saying that right?
Acorp, yeah.
Yep, my bad. Acorp. The average fans were 22.7 thousand for 19 events. And again, to throw the Eels in, they're number three with an average of 17.4 thousand with 13 events. The NFL, the highest average fans for 2023 was 93.5, and that was from the Cowboys. The lowest was my Chicago Bears with 61.7. And that might be funny because they weren't very good, but also it's a fact that they have one of the smallest stadiums when it comes to seating. In NFL and college football, they range from, like I said, 60. There's more college football stadiums that have 100,000 seats, which I can't fathom. Like, if you're familiar with the Michigan Wolverines, like that's a college stadium that has over 100,000 seats. Like, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. But go back to the Raiders stadium, that's most important through all of this. It does hold 65,000 seats, and it can be increased. A lot of these most of these NFL or football stadiums can be increased based on different ways the stadium moves, or if you want to include standing room. It can be increased to 72,000. So with all that information, to answer your question of 45,000 fans, and then the typical 15 to 30-ish for a regular NRL season game, yeah, I think that's going to be great. I think with all that information, I think 45,000 would be great. You don't need to fill this NFL stadium with 45,000. That's going to be a lot of people, and I think it's going to more than motivate this atmosphere to be awesome. And
they're the two things I think is 45K. A, looks good on TV if you get them not packed up to the nosebleeds, but in the actual lower bowl itself, and B, like you said, creates the atmosphere, just the noise that you want to hear from a big doubleheader. So I think that is a good benchmark. If you can leave that as your opening benchmark, I think that's a nice place to look to build on in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
that's going to be great.
Sixties, I'm going to ask this question, but I'm hoping you chime in because you've always articulated some great points in regards to this particular matter. But you are attending your first live NRL game, obviously, and it's obviously games. It's a doubleheader. But what are you expecting to notice more at the stadium compared to the broadcast experience? Because I tell you, there are some things that really stand out, and I'm actually keen to see what you're looking for.
We mentioned it. Well, obviously, I'm super excited. So again, cliche. I'm just more thankful to be there. Like, even if it's not what I'm expecting, I'm sure it's going to be like, that was awesome. That was great. We talked about it before on the last time I was on. Is we talked about like the shapes of when the play is progressing. Because I mentioned that it's a small gripe, but I hate when when a guy's tackled and they're about to play the ball and they zoom in on the guy who's tackled
Yeah,
and the dummy
they
half.
love the smash
I
cut.
wish.
Yep. Yep.
Oh man, it kind of bugs me to a degree because I wish like, all right, the dude's tackled. You don't gotta zoom in on him.
Exactly.
Just pan out,
What's
and
the
then let's
team
see
doing?
like the 4 or 5 guys to the guys left or right, and like whatever happens. Because sometimes they'll catch the ball, and then like you hear the crowd, and then they have to zoom out, and the guy's already passed everybody. Not a big deal, but I'll get to see that in person. Where like I'll see the guy tackle, then maybe I'll put my eyes to the left or right, see how guys are moving around or positioning themselves, and like I find that so interesting in sports. Like it's not just like my fiance. She's just watching. If she was to watch, she doesn't really care for sports in the grand scheme of it. So she would just see guys running into each other, and oh, this is cool. Oh, they scored. Yeah, there's just so much more to it than that when it comes to baseball, football, and the NRL. And I love that aspect of it. It's a lot of it's a mind game, and like, what would you do? And like every person's responsibility. So seeing the shapes on offense and defense, or attack and defense, is what I'm looking forward to. Being a kind of a goofball when it comes to that stuff.
And I guess harking back to Russell Crowe's promo, he talks about how tactics are done on, basically on the fly. That's because of being non-stop. So really what you're going to get to see is as the play evolves in a set and you start to see how the defence have set themselves out, you can see the shapes that the attacking team have, or you can see whether they've noticed that maybe the defence haven't numbered up too
Fullback's
well on
caught
one
in a
side of the
line.
ruck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, and then you'll start to complain because the pass from the dummy half has gone the wrong way. Like either the dummy half hasn't noted where the opportunities are, or the first receiver hasn't called, like the half or 5'8", hasn't called for the ball on the right side, or the dummy half's ignored a call and gone the other way. And so you'll get all those frustrations where you're like, what are they doing? What are they doing? They're
right
short,
there.
yeah, or they're barely got back on side. They're gassed. You can see them. They're gassed. Like they're struggling to get back, and you'll get to see like the hand. Whether there's hands on the hips or
The body language.
the body language. So yes, and sorry to interrupt, but that's really what you're going to get to see from that aspect. Sorry, continue.
So I was going to say, tangential to what we're talking about in terms of being able to see differences in the game as a broadcast versus a live in-person experience. Do you know where your tickets are actually in relation to the field, like center line, 20 meter?
Yeah. Well, let me see if I can pull it up.
Because that actually does change how you can perceive the game as well. It's one of those things where watching it behind the post, while it's not considered the optimal viewing experience, you can see things developing before other people on the field because of the way the gaps show themselves versus being the sort of ideal centerline seat.
Yeah, I don't want to log into my Ticketmaster. I'm not signed in apparently, so I'm not going to go into it. But I do know it's roughly in the middle, so probably between the 40s and 50s on whichever side.
Fantastic viewing angle for
and it's not the 100 level, and it's not the 300 level. So up top, it's kind of in the middle. And I think we have like the first or second row in that vicinity.
That sounds almost analogous to where we sit for the Parramatta home game 60s.
Yep.
So it's like the ideal.
And I'll take pictures and everything.
It's like the ideal, like watching the game from TV, but in the stadium sort of angle. So you'll get to hear all the violent collisions and see stuff unfolding, but they're in person, so it'd be awesome.
Yeah, probably the only thing that you'll miss that will be harder to get, I think, in the stadium, and it depends on the noise. But when you're at a smaller ground that we are when we're watching New South Wales Cup or Flag or junior reps, when you're there, you get to hear the calls that are going on out there. When the players are calling for a penalty for an offside, when the first receiver's calling for the ball, you can sometimes hear some yelling from the bench, all that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, in the stadium experience, you don't quite get to hear that, but you certainly can hear the noise of some of the collisions. And I would imagine there might be periods in the game where the crowd is a little subdued because they're not quite sure what's happening, or if something's evolving. So it might be like people are watching more out of curiosity or trying to work out what's going on. So you might get more opportunity to hear some of the goings on out on the field. But I think it'll be also interesting to hear what sort of PA announcements are made during the game, like to explain what's just happened. Whether you get the players get a 6 again call, and then whether the PA announces that's 6 again for the Sea Eagles.
Yeah, because usually it's just like a bell or some sort of like little siren for the players to be made aware of. So it'd be interesting to see how they.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll use like an Australian person to come in to do like the what's it called, the public address, so the announcer guy, or it'd just be some American guy that's being told what to say. I would imagine it'd be an Australian person. That way, there's no wrong information or just random. It would kind of eliminate anything else that could go wrong with that.
Yeah, you can get the subtitles on the screen if there's any issue.
Oh, okay.
With our
right. Oh no,
with the twang.
I'm so used to the accent. It literally like I don't even like I hear it, but I don't hear it. The only time it makes me laugh is if I hear like a commentator say like a new like catchphrase or something. Like what was it? Whatever game last year, maybe the year before, they said some weird quip where it was like, "Oh, he was as hot as a Thanksgiving or an Easter ham or something." I was like,
Vossi loves idiom. I use the term loosely because I don't know if all of them are idioms, or at least non-idioms, but he loves to really go hard on the descriptive language like that. So,
I like it. It's cool.
At least he doesn't say the field is as dry as a dead dingo's donga or something like that.
Oh boy. One of the things I was looking forward to actually seeing, like even when I'm sitting at home, I think about it, is whenever they kick the ball on the fifth tackle, to get rid of it or whatever, or even not, even if it's kind of close and strategic, like when Cleary does it, the bomb kicks. And one of the things, like, again, for the NFL, you're kind of just fully expected. If you're a punt returner or kick returner, if you drop the ball, like, you're a bum. Like, that is one of the, not that that person is, but that's like the sports mindset. Like, get him out of here. How do you drop it? Blah, 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 blah. With these bomb kicks, like, I've learned, I know now, it's just like, it's incredibly difficult at times to catch this big oblong white ball in the sky. Like, it can be very hard judged incorrectly, and people shouldn't, unless it's like, they got the yips and they keep dropping it.
Yeah, sometimes they muff it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not fully, like, not 100% expected to catch it. You just hope your top guys can. And I just want to see how high, my thing is, I want to see how high these balls go and just, like, kind of get that perspective of, like, oh, that is hard.
Well, you got,
Ron, when you get a spiral bomb put up, you can perfectly understand how the players have trouble because the thing wobbles all through the air, and it can look as if it's heading in one direction, then it changes direction as it's coming down. Yeah. It's a horror to catch, and that's really a more recent trend in the game that the kickers have developed the ability for the spiral bomb. In the past, there used to be mostly end over end or pretty flat when the ball was coming down. So the challenge was mainly in the contest rather than the catching. But now it's like, where is the ball coming down? Like, if I position myself correctly.
No Burton or Cleary, obviously 60s, but between Cherry Evans, Reynolds, and even Walker and Keary, some pretty good exponents of the attacking bomb. So it'd be good for Ron to see how they can strike it and if they can get any nasty swirls going.
Yeah, because I don't want to be like bashing those guys, because I've learned that it is difficult, but it just makes it like I didn't kind of realize that you said it goes end over end or spirals or wobbly. Like, I want to see that and understand, like, damn, that is hard. Or like,
the other part of it is that they
just to fully understand that.
Sometimes they just hear the footsteps coming too. The kick chase comes thundering.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing too in the NFL. Like, you don't hit that dude until he touches it.
Yeah,
like,
there's no fair
jumping
catch.
up, bumping him, but you're going for the ball, so you can't get called. Or there's 3 guys doing that at once. Oh, you're supposed to, and then they could score. Like, it's just like, I can imagine. Yeah, like you said, you hear those footsteps. Like, I can't. It just kind of makes me like laughing at goosebumps, because like I know what playing sports. I know what that feels and sounds like, but not to that degree. So it's really interesting. Like, being in that mindset, like, oh my god, where is he? Hopefully, someone's telling him, like, they're right there. I don't even know what. I would like to be in the mind of like Gutho or any kind of top guy that catches the high ball. And lastly, to this question, just looking forward to. It's one thing watching on the couch or talking to you guys. I want to know what it's like to just sit there and be in it. Not just so much be thankful that I'm there. Yeah, no, that's obviously great and I'm happy. But just be in the atmosphere, hear what's being said, the chants, maybe I'm going to be around a bunch of Australian people and just hearing like their quips and their take on it. And maybe it's different than what you guys think, but maybe they're kind of on par, and just hearing different back and forth and just like being in it and understanding. Like I watched the World Club Challenge yesterday actually, and that was a good game. Weird call for that English team.
Yes,
that was a dumb call. I don't understand how that's a try, but we're not going to go there. But like, I'm hearing whatchamacallit. Sorry, I made myself laugh. When you hear the crowd and they're having, maybe it's just in England, but every team's different. They are having all these different chants during the game, and the whole crowd is clapping at the same time, just being in that atmosphere. And that looked like a small stadium too, but they packed it out, I believe. And just hearing the crowd cheer when their team scored. Obviously, the bragging rights of that game are kind of big, but it doesn't matter. Just hearing that atmosphere, and I want to feel that. Like, I don't like soccer. I'm sorry. I just can't get into it. I'm sorry. I know it's one of the best sports in the whole world, popular, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. But I understand how intense those fans are, and like how they take that game seriously, and how that atmosphere is. I want to experience something like that that's from a different country, a new sport that I'm getting into, and everything else that I've never experienced before at a sporting event. So just like simply being there in the moment, feeling everything that you're supposed to feel at this event. I'm looking forward to that. I want all the sounds, smells, everything. Like I'm just excited to be there, and something new.
That what you witnessed with the English, that World Club Challenge game over in England, the singing aspect is pretty unique to the English rugby league crowd. I mean, it's a soccer thing. It's very much what you get from soccer games is the singing that goes on. In rugby league in Australia, it's more chanting. Like with the para clap 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 that'll happen.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, it's sick.
When the attack is happening, each team's got their own way that their supporters will cheer. But I have to say that I went to the England rugby league team toured when they toured Australia in, I think it was 92 now. They played a couple of club games against club teams, and Parramatta was sitting at the very bottom of the table back in those days, right? And they played a game at Parramatta Stadium, and it was about 18 to 20,000 that turned up for the game at Parramatta Stadium in a midweek match. And the touring English supporters that were there were singing during the game, and it made it for like a completely different atmosphere at the football. And we had an English supporter that was on his own, that was sitting behind where we sit, and he was singing along with the crowd that was mostly on the other side of the field. And then he said he was talking to himself, and he's like, "Gee, this Parramatta team's a good team because Parramatta beat England, right?" I'm thinking, man, we are the bottom of the world in terms of what this football team's like. So it doesn't augur well for your national team that you've just been beaten by Parramatta. But it was a different experience in terms of what the crowd was like. I really, really enjoyed that particular night. But look, I think it might be interesting if you during the games that there's people wondering what's going on, and you in your American accent answering for them.
Oh, I've thought about that.
And explaining.
I've thought about that.
So that will be quite the experience. So I'd be interested too. I think if you can post up, like if you're talking to American fans there that are there for their first experience and didn't know much, and you just grab a few words with them, that'd be great to see. We're gonna, as you said, you're gonna be taking plenty of photos. We'd love to be able to share the photos on TCT. But now let's just get to the nitty gritty of it. It's time for your tips on the games, mate.
Let's go. Let's do it. You want me to start on this, or you guys want to?
No. You give us your tip, and then we'll just quickly give a quick reply, and then you can go into the next game.
So starting with Seagulls and Rabbitohs, obviously.
All right, Seagulls and Rabbitohs. I mean, it's a new year. All these teams are revamped and everything, so it's like kind of hard to see what's going to happen, obviously. But you know what? Seagulls, they just have a lot of things going on with them. Like, I don't know if they're going to be as good as they might think they are or where people might think. You got Turbo coming back from another injury. My first year watching was 2021, and I thought this dude was amazing. I thought this was the best rugby league player that has ever lived. Because how crazy good he was.
He was
and
certainly in that conversation. He was unstoppable that year.
it was insane. It was so crazy. And that's like kind of what led to like me loving it. Cause I'm like, nobody in America is knowing what this dude is doing and how that has since gone the last couple of years, unfortunately. So you got that return. Hopefully he can be what he can be this year and this round one. Daly Cherry Evans, he's getting older. Is this going to be his last year? I don't know what his current contract thing is right now. So his age, is there going to be decline? Is he going to be as dominant as he's been for longer than I've even known about him? No, Schuster's playing. I think he's going into the forwards, but he's not even playing. They got Luke Brooks, who is going to be a plus. He had a bad run, or not bad run, but just all the inconsistencies and weird drama that was with the Tigers. So I think him and DCE is a good combo. He's just going to be able to do his thing without any pressure because he's not going to be the number one star per se. And then Olakawatu, hopefully I said that correctly.
That's a pretty good one, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, let's go. He is probably, if I had to make like outside the Eels, he's within my top 5 favorite people to watch because that dude's a dog. He's a beast. He's got his whole last name on his leg as a tattoo. That's pretty cool. I don't really want to do that. Mine's lame. But dude, that guy's a beast. That guy's awesome. So that's my my thing on the Sea Eagles. I'm gonna tip the Rabbitohs though to win. Dude, where they have my little notes here? You got Latrell Mitchell, who's a dog. He's coming back. They have, not the best halves pairing, but Cody Walker. He like just on appearance. No offense to him, but you don't think this guy's gonna ball out this and that. But then when you watch him play, he's doing everything: scoring, passing, kick. Like he can just do everything. That dude's. I really like watching him because like I like the things that like you don't expect to happen from people and stuff like that.
Just for our listeners, just to chime in here, Ron. When he describes Latrell as a dog, that's a positive, not a negative. That's probably a difference in cultural nomenclature there.
Yeah.
So
like DAWG.
Yeah, exactly. He's got that dog in him in that sort of light, rather than he's a dog, because sometimes in Australia you can use that as a negative. So yeah, he's gassing up Latrell, not.
No, that guy's a beast.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly tangential to it. He's a beast. Yeah.
I watch a lot of, as if hopefully other people watch as much Pat McAfee as I do, because whenever a dude's a stud, they go dog. Like that's. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I meant. He's a beast. No negatives. So hopefully you said that. I'm like, oh, God. But no, yeah, beast. Ilias is all right. The team, hopefully everyone's returning to form because I think there was expectations last year with them. I was looking at their line. Funny enough, when I was getting all my stuff compiled for our conversation, I was looking at their team list. They just came out, it was 30 seconds ago when I was learning. I'm like, oh, sweet. Their forwards are beasts. Yeah, they're 11 through 13.
Yeah.
Kolo Matungi. I know who it is.
Keon Kolo Matungi. He's
there you go.
Rising star on the back row. He's almost the 1-to-1 opposite of Olakawatu on the other side. They're both very similar.
Yes, I like him. They got Arrow and Murray. Those guys are just they're big. Their big men are just. I really like the Rabbitohs, and then got to put this guy in here. Cook, he's one of my favorite guys outside the Eels too. I'm aware he's been doing it for a long time. He has the New South Wales Blues jersey for a long time. He's just a consistent, and other than watching Reed Monty when I first started, he was like another guy that I saw was just like taking over games at this position more than Reed was, but just seeing me liking Reed so much was like, all right, this is my guy. And then see what he does. Like, okay, he plays like this. And then seeing Cook play like that, but even more in scoring.
He's got a unique
all this
play
other
style.
stuff.
Cook's a funny one too, Ron, because when you're watching an NFL broadcast and if there's a tight end there, or you can almost take a shot, the commentator's going to say, "Oh, this guy's got a background in basketball," because most tight ends. Yeah, it's the same thing with Damien Cook in the Australian broadcast where they'll say, "Did you know that he played? He was a Surf Life Saver that did the flag sprints." So it's literally just this one drill where you lie on your belly are facing away from these little, they're called flags, but sometimes they're flags, just little poles, and you just get up on the whistle and sprint to a flag, and the fastest person in those tough conditions wins. And they always bring it up because obviously he's a very strong runner of the ball from dummy half. So that's the little synergy or symmetry there between the NFL and tight ends and Damien Cook and flags.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my tip, Cook is like I remember it was 2021, whatever. There was a scrum, and I think it went right to. I think Cook either grabbed it. It was against the Eels, or maybe he was the first guy to get it, the first receiver, and he just scored it. One fake and scored. I was like, what the hell was that? You didn't even get touched. I was like, who was that? I was like, the number 9. I was like, oh my god, what the? And I think we ended up losing that game, so it was whatever. But anyway, I got the Rabbitohs to win. By the way, speaking of Rabbitohs and Seagulls, did you see Saab interview at whatever TV station that was? And they're like, what's a rabbitoh? What creature is that? And he's like, it's a rabbit. They're all rabbits. And then, like, I think they made him question himself. Like, wait, what is that? And then I read the article and the video, and I was like, that is pretty funny. Because I even thought, is that like a special rabbit in Australia? Like, do they have 3 ears, or is it like 2? Well, like, are they big? Like, I was like, I don't know what that is.
Do you know what it actually is?
I read the article, and I think it's just a rabbit. But I think back in the day, like something. No, maybe okay. Go ahead. I read something.
Yeah, no, it was the people that sell the rabbit were called rabbitohs.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So back in like over 100 years ago, there were the rabbit sellers, because rabbit was a cheap form of meat, and the people who would sell rabbits would be called rabbitohs, and obviously there was a few of them in that area, and it ended up being that they adopted that. But then of course you're not going to have a bloke standing there as you're selling rabbits as your mascot. You're going to have the little beast itself. So
that's funny.
There's all sorts of different reasons why the teams got their names, from things in deliberate marketing selections to having connections with something from the area, which they obviously did. And they're one of the clubs that no longer exists, because clubs change their names. Like Canterbury used to simply be known as, like the Canterbury Bulldogs were the Berries, right? Because it was just a play on the end of
their names.
Canterbury's,
yeah. And so
the Gold Coast have gone for about 6 iterations, and they're currently the Titans.
Yeah, and Parramatta didn't have any sort of mascot as such for a while, and it was really in the 60s that they became the Eels, when it was suggested that the Aboriginal name of Parramatta, which is actually Parramatta, was referencing where the place in the river where the eels are, and that was then adopted. But then you've got ones that are more modern teams, and they have adopted names that are better for marketing. Newtown was one of the first to do it when they existed, because they were originally known as the Blue Bags, because their jerseys were just a big
baggy
nutty blue jersey. So they were called the Blue Bags. And then in the 70s, it was thought, well, that's not really going to market them in any way. So they were changed to the Jets, which was a modern football sounding team. But if you ever went out to Newtown's home ground, you'd see the low flying jets that fly over it, because it's not that far from the airport. You would get, so it was actually quite an appropriate name for them to receive. I mean, the Tigers could literally be called the Jets when you ever go to Leichhardt Oval. The Jets like flying. You almost feel like you could reach up and touch them. They're that low coming over. But So anyway, so Ron, you're tipping the Rabbitohs. What sort of margin are you going for there, mate?
Oh boy. I don't know. I didn't get that far in my thumb. I just
This is always a tricky part, trying to tip form when there is no form at the start of a season.
Well, let's go.
Right.
1 to 12 or 13 plus.
I think that they'll win more. I think they'll be up 13 plus.
Ooh, big win. Yeah.
I'm going to go contrary. I'm going to tip the Seagulls 1 to 12. I don't know. I dislike both teams.
Right.
And I've always disliked the Seagulls more, but I don't know. I don't rate South. I know they've got X factors. They got great players. There's something about them that when they didn't make the finals last year, I didn't think they'd make the finals. I think they may not make the finals this year, and I think Manly will. So I'm going to go for Manly. 40, yours?
If the Bowie sessions have gotten Tommy Tebojevic right, then
I saw that.
and I'm not going to knock it because sometimes it's the weird stuff like that. Weird, but there's nothing wrong with ballet. But as a
I got you.
Yeah, as a regular league footballer, it comes across as weird in that the dual purpose thing. But if he is right, then unfortunately you can't count Manly out in any given game. He is the very definition of X factor, and I think this could be a statement game for him after a lot of turmoil in regards to his availability and health. So yeah, I think Manly, and you went narrow 60s, and I think that's probably the reality is Manly maybe narrowly, but I think this will be a fun game. Both teams have a lot of offensive weapons. Obviously, you just mentioned Tommy, but Saab is a flyer, Cooler is electric in the centres, and you also got Ola Kawatu in the back row for the Seagulls, and then likewise for the Rabbitohs. If they get Latrell Mitchell switched on, he's going to be dominant. They've got a great back line, and you mentioned that forward pack, Ron, but solid middles. Tatola's been a bit of a breakout player in recent seasons, and that back row, Kaloa Matangi, Arrow, and Murray is quite literally a representative back row. So really keen to see this one plays out, and I think it's a good table setter for the next game.
Yeah, and I'm just going to jump in now with my tip for the Roosters and Broncos because I have to bow out now, fellas. I'm looking at the teams. I think this Broncos, if both teams play to the best of their ability, the Broncos win this and they win at 13+. Mm-hmm. And a shout out to one of the players that's listed on the extended reserve list, Zach Docker-Clay. He was a student at the school that I taught at many, many years ago. He was in the Parramatta system for a while. He finally got his first grade debut, I think, at the age of 27 at the Bulldogs. And he's testimony to players who it looks like a rugby league career is not necessarily going to be for them, but he got past the age football. He kept plying his trade. He went over to England. He's been to different clubs. He went up to North Queensland. He's been at the Seagulls with Blacktown Workers. He'd been at the West Tigers. He's now at the Roosters. He's on the fringe of first grade. He's been taken to Las Vegas to be on this extended reserve list. Look, I think it's great that these things have happened for Zach. I knew his family, great family, super respectful people. And I'm just really happy that he's got to be a part of this experience. So, but unfortunately, as I said, I'm going to tip the Broncos 13+.
Well said, mate. Well, not so much well said about the Broncos winning, but that might be the unfortunate reality. But yeah, that talk about perseverance in Zach's story is very poignant. Ron, 60s, like I said, is sort of preempted us by need and necessity there. But you got last year's grand finalists, and they quite literally had a hand and a half on the trophy until the final 20 minutes from Nathan Cleary solved them. Unfortunately, you hate to hear that word, but choke. And they're taking on one of the perennial powerhouses in the Roosters who, I don't know who you'd say they're analogous to. I think Melbourne are probably were the New England Patriots of the NRL. The Roosters, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a team that's had a lot of success, and because they're kind of like Dallas in terms of the lavish spending, but they had a lot more success than the Cowboys. So they're one of the better teams for a long time, but they've also had their struggles recently. I'm interested to see how you see this one going, but you obviously got the big battle of fullbacks, Tedesco versus Walsh. You've got two good back lines. You've got Joseph Suali'i up against the likes of Tony Staggs and Selwyn Cobbo. In the halves, it's Luke Keary and Sam Walker versus Mam and Reynolds, so it's a very good matchup there. And then the Roosters got the high-profile recruit Spencer Leniu starting versus that big Broncos pack headed by Payne Haas and Patrick Carrigan. I'm really keen to see how you see this one playing out, and I think the obvious tip is the Broncos, but the Roosters can't be dismissed in terms of the players on paper at the very least.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything. Excuse me, everything you said. Literally, because like I have my little notes here. Like I put for Roosters, plenty of names, but failed to live to expectations in 2023. Like they have so many people. They have all these names. They have what I believe at one point people thought Tedesco was the best fullback in the game. He needs to bounce back. He didn't have a very good year last year, and that kind of showed on a bigger scale in Origin. And one play that stood out to me was the hammer when he scored his try, and Tedesco took a bad angle and then he slipped. I guess you can't control the slip, but even like you can kind of see how he's going before that even happened, and you know how that ended up. So that there's that question. Like you said, they got Radley, Linu, Nanu, who might not. What were you saying?
Oh, Victor the Inflictor, as the commentators love to call him. He doesn't mind a big hit. He can get a little bit loose sometimes, but it is entertaining.
Yeah, for sure. And he like on the field, like his demeanor, like he doesn't seem like a troublemaker, but then like he ends up getting in all these things, which I find funny in regards to like that.
Yep.
But they got Manu, Kiri, Walker, and Brandon Smith, along with everyone else. Like Manu's regarded as, I've heard you talk highly of him about like one of the best young players in the game that could be super awesome, but he might not even be there next year. So maybe he balls out this year.
Yep. Could be the swan song season.
Yeah, which is crazy. And they don't have Dom Young. Unfortunate that he got hurt in a trial game.
Correct.
But I was looking forward to watching him just because of how crazy good he is, and he can't even play, and that must suck because, well, obviously not to play, but just for this experience to not even going to Vegas, but I keep repeating myself, but like just to go and not be able to participate must stink, and he's too good of a talent. That's the thing. Like even when it's like the Eels, like so and so's out, we have a chance to win. It's like that's good, I guess, in that sense. But like you want to have your team play the best people, and like even for a viewing experience, I want to see the best people. My buddy recently in South Carolina, he went to see the Hornets, who aren't very good, but in that instance, he goes to see like the other team, and he went to go see the Spurs and that new dude Wemby or whatever was like 7 foot, 100.
The French freak.
He ended up sitting out for general like soreness or just an off day. He's like, well, I spent these tickets with my grandpa, and now I can't even watch this dude. Whatever, This is an injury. It's different, but I think it applies. Like you want to see the same, the best guys play. And my last little note here, Swali'i, like I remember before the season started on 360, they would not shut up about him and rugby. And is he leaving? Is he good? Is he worth the money? Should he poach players? And this guy, his expectations. And he was really good last year, on and on and on and on and on. And like he played well last year, but I don't think he was like a top 10, top 15, like maybe top 15. That doesn't make sense. But he wasn't like this overpowering force. He was good for the most part. And it's just like, okay, is he going to take that next step further? Is he going to be super dominant before he leaves? Even if he does leave still, I feel like there's still some weird uncertainty if he is, or it's a whole situation. And then also if we take it to this game specifically, no Dom Young. So if he's playing the wing, well, I don't know who they're going to replace him. I guess I could look. I don't know who they're going to replace him with. But now the focus is like, all right, whoever they're replacing that side with is weaker than Swali'i. So now all the pressure is to get this better guy the ball any way possible to score. And now the pressure on the defense is going to be for that. This is going to be hyper focused. And now that hurts the Roosters in that sense. I do have the Broncos as my pick for this. Their team is stacked. I don't know as an Eels fan if I'm allowed to like the Broncos and if it's socially acceptable or not. But man, like it's so hard not to like their team. And like when they play, it's like, God, I don't know if anyone could beat them. It's like just
their brand of football,
stud after stud after stud.
Yeah, is very, if you're watching in a neutral setting, it is very enjoyable to watch. They're fast, aggressive, got speed across the park. They're a very good team. They're still on the rise. So yeah, I think they're definitely a premiership heavyweight again this year. And I'm keen to see how they start this season after the heartbreak of last year, because some teams, it can get inside their head, and other teams, they just use it to become better. And I'm very keen to see which of the two the Broncos are.
Yeah, like Walsh, that dude looks like he's gliding on the grass.
Yeah, he is.
Like, it is like the highlights are just wild how much ground he gains, and it looks like his legs are not barely moving, but they're just like not going fast, but he's going fast. It's just like he's crazy to watch. And then the news that just came out maybe today or yesterday or whatever it was that he has interest in the NFL. That's an interesting conversation because you might be one of the most athletic dudes in the NRL, but just like based on based on where your age is, what position you play, people ahead of you, like how you transition into that. And it's not always black and white or super easy. So that's an interesting conversation for another day. But I'd rather, I think he can just blow up in the NRL and rugby league, and he's only 21. Like he's already been in the NRL playing, top level for 3 years, and he's only 21. And guys can play if you're an elite player, like in their mid 30s. This dude can make the way money is now and how it's only going up and all facets. This guy's gonna be he should be. I don't know. He's crazy good. I don't know if he should go to the
very,
NFL.
Very
like I don't have any more.
Yeah. There's just a lot of superlatives you could throw his way, and
that's what I was stuck with. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah, the effortless speed that he has. That's world class, and that always puts you in a good steed, regardless of what code you're playing. And it just happens to be rugby week, and it looks like he's on another planet sometimes.
Oh yeah, that's another thing about him in the NFL and Walsh. I hate to just keep bringing up Pat McAfee. Hopefully, maybe more people watch him out there by you, but he was in that clip with Tom Brady when Tom Brady visited them in their facility or whatever, and they're talking about Tom Brady on the show. And we have this clip of this rugby player. Watch Tom throw this dart, and then he throws this perfect pass, and Reese Walsh, and then it even said in the corner because they're giving credit to where they got the video. It said Reese Walsh or whatever his tag is. And then and they're like, this guy's probably. I should pull it up and send it to you if I can find it. But they're like, this guy's athletic. He probably, he handles the ball. He can run. He's getting the best guy ever to throw it to him. Blah 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 blah. And I'm sitting there on my couch like, dude, they have no idea how good this dude is. Like that's Reese Walsh. He would probably be Tom Brady's favorite receiver if he knew what he was doing. Like there would be no more Wes Welker. Like I'm just thinking all this stuff that they don't know who these people are, and it's just crazy. It's just it was going back to when I first started watching. It's there is this whole other sport. There's these whole other crop of athletes or people to watch that are insane, athletic, doing all these crazy things like that Dom Young try from last year where he did an upside down OBJ backwards hand behind whatever on the sideline to score a try right on the corner. That didn't show up on Sports Center. I'm seeing soccer highlights or lacrosse highlights or another web jam. It's those things are great. Don't want to take anything away from them, but it's why can't we throw some of those in there? This is crazy athleticism for a positive play score, stuff like that. It's just insane to me that the unawareness of this is crazy. But I don't know who to blame on that other than just the way it is and so how it is and how it's always been. And it's just hopefully with this whole movement and Vegas and maybe lessons learned from this time to next time that all changes and everything. But yeah, the Broncos, they're just stacked. I love Reynolds. That dude, he's just like a sniper with his kicking game.
Ultra
since
precise.
Watching him, it's just, man, it's just he can put it drop dimes with his foot. It's crazy. You got Haas, Cabo, Oates, Kerrigan, Staggs, Ezra Mam. He's a beast. He's the fastest man alive. He's so good. It's ridiculous.
A mean flick pass too. He broke out big time last year and would have been the MVP of the grand final if the Broncos had won.
Oh yeah.
He had a hell of a game. So yeah, they just
he did.
There's a lot of teams you can look at and say, all right, they've got a weakness on the wings or their middle rotation isn't as strong. But with the Broncos, they feel as well-rounded team, perhaps even more so than the Penrith Panthers. And the Panthers are still the presumptive favourites, I think, for the title. But the Broncos, geez, they've just got firepower across the park. They are an insanely well put together team, and I think they'll be right up there again in 2024.
For sure, I think so as well. So yeah, I'm going to tip the Broncos. And excuse me, I'll probably, it sounds funny because you guys were high on the Sea Eagles, and I picked the Rabbitohs, and it'd be a closer game, and I think they'll just blow them out for the most part. Again, unpredictable, even if it's midway through the season. Mm-hmm. I think the Broncos versus Roosters will be a lot closer. So maybe within 1-12. I think that was what you guys said the last time.
I think that's actually a fair tip.
Yeah, it's just the Roosters, despite everything you and me both said, they're still the Roosters. You got the best player. They're probably one of the most popular teams, I imagine, probably top 2, top 3 popular teams, and they're going over there and the history. Everything else, I can see this game going down to the wire, to be completely honest, with maybe a Reese Walsh breakaway try at the very end.
Yeah, there's always big energy for the opening round when it's in Australia, and I imagine all the teams on the show this weekend will be fired up to put their best foot forward. So I think this could be a good contest. And while I do think the Broncos will win, your guess or your tip that might be a closer game, I don't think that could be I don't think that wouldn't be too far off the mark when all is said and done. So yeah, good stuff there, mate. And I think we'll wrap it up there. Obviously, Sixties is already tagged out, but We both hope you have a wonderful trip with the missus, not just on the football front, but also just enjoying Vegas in general. Really looking forward to catching up with you on the other side and getting the big rundown of everything that you did and how it all played out. And yeah, and hopefully we can get some photos and memories and insight, and looking forward to seeing how it all plays out and what you want to see the NRL do in the next iteration of the Vegas trips.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'll take a bunch of pictures, maybe some videos. Give you guys the experience that I can share my experience and let you guys see. And I'm more than willing to do that. I'm really lucky that I have the opportunity to do this, fortunate to where I am in my life to be able to do that, and everything comes with it. And I'm just really happy that you guys let me come on and talk to you guys. I'm big fans. I've controlled my breathing the last 3 times being on this when talking, because I get really nervous and I'm talking too fast.
You've done a great job.
And I think I have my water. I'm breathing. We're good. But no, so I'm really excited to talk to you guys, and I really appreciate you guys having me on. I look forward to it. I enjoy talking to Sixties. I enjoy talking to you. Until next time, for sure. I can't wait to talk to you when I come back. Send you everything. And hopefully, I talk to you again after that, and then maybe after that and that, I could go to Vegas and see the Eels, and that'll probably be. It's become a bucket list thing.
I was about to say that's a bucket list item right there. Yeah.
And then after Vegas, if that happens, I got to get to Australia at least once before I kick the bucket eventually. So that's the goal. And once again, thanks, guys. I really appreciate being able to come on here.
Thanks for coming on, and we'll catch you soon, okay, mate? And as you could imagine, that concludes our chat with Ron. Much thanks to both himself and Sixties for their time to talk about all things Round Zero, from the occasion itself to the teams involved and the sort of clash of cultures that's going to be occurring on Sunday. Really fascinating to see how it plays out between America's love of pageantry and Australia's more straightforward sporting proceedings. But either way, this is a really fascinating moment for the game, and thanks to Ron for taking his time before his trip to Vegas, as well as everything he's going to provide to us in the aftermath of it. We really look forward to seeing how it plays out for him and the code. So stay tuned to see how that feedback comes out. As we do wrap up, again, thanks to Sixties and Ron. Thanks to the sponsors of the show, Big Swing Golf, North Mead, and Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Rowan, and Parramatta. Hope you guys enjoyed this chat. And as always, we'll catch you in the next episode. Go, you mighty Eels.